Hey, good morning. What is up? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. That is the place you're going to get your next vehicle. We have Boxing Week year-end sales about to commence, and they're going to be amazing. A little birdie has told me we are going to offer Ford employee pricing. You didn't hear it from me, but you can certainly buy from me at Norm at Oak Ridge Ford. You can set up your appointment right now. We can do something remotely. I help out OGs and converts every single week, all across southwestern Ontario, even outside of province. And I want to help you get your car from Oak Ridge Ford between now and the end of the year, and it's going to be the deal of the season. Mark my words. Mike in Buffalo, Norm in London. What a great week for the Maple Leafs, encapsulated by a frustrating game against the Islanders on home ice. You know, I think it was a team that the Leafs that really should have somehow found a way to win that game, Mike, even with, being tired, even with Auston Matthews re-aggravating an injury, and that's another story in and of itself. But you feel like, hey, they got 3 wins. The loss is a byproduct of poor scheduling. Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. It's a busy week leading into the Christmas break. All teams are in this situation where they're playing 3 or 4 games in a week. And if you look at it, they beat the Sabres in Toronto, on Sunday. They go to play the Dallas Stars, one of the best teams in the league. And really, I think the only reason they won that game was because Joseph Woll kept them in it. And, they had an outburst where Jake Ottinger allowed 4 goals on 8 shots. And then they sort of rode that to the victory. But I think Woll was the main reason why they won that game. And then they go to Buffalo, where Buffalo had lost 11 in a row. And, it's well documented, the House of Horrors that the Hot Sauce Blue Cheese Arena, or whatever you want to call it now, KeyBank Center, has been over the years. But the Sabres are an absolute tire fire right now. And the Leafs jumped on them a minute or so into the first period and didn't let up until they were leading 5-1, and then sort of took their foot off the gas pedal and made it interesting. But they won that game. So they win 3 games, and then in the second of back-to-back, the Islanders jumped on them, and they spent most of the next 2 periods catching up to get to 3-2, and then 1 goal on a deflection really, I think, let the air out of the balloon. So if you're going to take three victories in a week and 2 over your closest geographic rival, I think the Leafs would take it.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Going a little bit early today, so the OGs and converts have yet to join the chat, but we are anticipating their arrival any moment now. Are we just conceding that, if you play too many games in a week, Mike, regardless of the opponent, it's okay to lose?
It's not okay to lose, but it's understandable if you lose, because you have a situation where, you've played 4 games in a week. You're playing second of back-to-back. I think with the injury to Stolarz, it was understandable, and I think smart on the part of Craig Berube to give Joseph Woll the extra day of rest. He had a very busy night against the Stars. I think it was over 40 shots. And, on Friday in Buffalo, which is usually a hornet's nest, they call up Matt Murray. And as I've said consistently since we started the show at the beginning of September, Matt Murray is going to have a role this year. Now, it may not be as many games as I expected, but I expected with Woll and Stolarz, 2 goaltenders who have had a history of injury, that you were going to need a 3rd goaltender. And early in the season, it was Dennis Hildeby. But I think they want Dennis Hildeby to play regularly in the American Hockey League. So once Matt Murray was physically able to play, I thought that they would call him up, and they did. And the situation was, he had a shutout. I think it was against Bakersfield earlier in the week, and they called him up. And I thought he played pretty well. I mean, there were maybe one of the goals I think he should have stopped. he got fortunate in the sense that one goal was called off because of a high sticking penalty. Another goal was called off because of goalie interference. But I thought for a guy who hadn't played in 20 months, he played pretty damn well.
Isn't that amazing? The Leafs have 4 goaltenders, right? A Leaf friend of mine at work and I were talking about how right now the way you see this team and its capabilities, its shortcomings that might be able to be augmented or accentuated at a particular time of the season when you can do those kinds of things. The Leafs appear to have the personnel to not only finish among the best in the league, but maybe take a run at this thing, Mike. I mean, Matt Murray, what a story. 2 years, comes back and gets a win. Dennis Hildeby's a giant. He can get in between the pipes when you need him, stop pucks just by default because he's so large. And then you have these 2 goaltenders, if healthy, in Stolarz and Woll, young, hungry, tenacious, wanting to prove their worth. I don't remember when the Leafs had a better goaltending situation. Now, that could all change if all of the guys start shitting the bed and getting injured and things start going south. But as of now, looking out on the landscape, it's very encouraging.
Well, okay, I'll slightly disagree. I think right now, the goaltenders that they have played well, have played above expectations. But the teams that win a Stanley Cup, with the exception of the Vegas Golden Knights, have had a number 1 goaltender. And I have said again since the very beginning of the this season of the convo that this season will be about Joseph Woll and about whether Joseph Woll can be the number 1. Because this team is not winning a Stanley Cup with Anthony Stolarz in goal. Nothing against him, and he's played very well. But they need to find out whether Joseph Woll can be the number 1. And
that's a really bold statement, Mike, that is not rooted in anything other than just your opinion, which we all value and love and care for, and that's the reason we have this show.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know? I mean, Stolarz did get a ring. He saw what it takes. Why can't he be the guy?
Because he physically is not capable of it. He's had injury issues his entire career, knee problems, and
so has Woll.
No, but okay, it's been different things with Woll. It's been different issues. It's been back. It's been shoulder. It's been a general breakdown. But with Stolarz, it's been his knees, and he's a big goaltender, and big goaltenders usually have injury issues. He's 30 years old. I'm not saying he's not capable. I'm just saying he's not capable of carrying this team to a Stanley Cup. So, but maybe he has a role. Maybe he spots a game here in the playoffs when Joseph Woll doesn't have it. But my belief is this team will only go as far as Joseph Woll will carry them. And that may not be very far. I mean, if he's not capable of staying healthy, and if he's not capable of maintaining a level of consistency in the postseason, then this team is not going to go where everybody hopes that they go. But they're getting good performances out of their goaltenders. They're playing better defensively in front of their goaltenders. Right. But like I said, in the end, Joseph Woll will have to be the number 1 if this team is going to contend for a Stanley Cup.
The Leafs with the fewest goals against in the Atlantic, 93. My point was that the quality of the content and the amount of contributors is really encouraging, right? If somebody goes down, there's someone who you believe and has proven to be capable to step in. Even these amazing stories like Murray coming back after all of this time. That's a win. I mean, he's in the back. He's in the background. He's laying in wait. If you need that kind of guy to do anything of substance for you, you have it. In years past, the Leafs didn't have those opportunities because the personnel just weren't there. It's okay if Joseph Woll leads the way. He leads the charge. If he takes the net and runs with it, I'm okay with that. Mike, you and I have a high valued shared opinion on Joseph Woll. It's just the last thing you want is to have your front crumble and have no response or no resource to back up the main contributors and the front end elements of any kind of push you're going to make. So just looking at this team this year, I mean, even look at the defense, the forwards, there's an abundance of capability. Whether all of that capability can coagulate at the end of the day to to achieve anything of substance, that remains to be seen. But 34 games in, tops in the Atlantic, have been one of the best teams at keeping the puck out of its net at this point. Even when you lose to the New York Islanders, things could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
Yeah, I look at this team and I see a lot of improvements over teams of years past, but I also see some situations that we'll talk about now that I think are ring the bell in terms of concern.
Okay, so Auston Matthews re-aggravating an injury. I mean, he missed how many games due to a mysterious lower body injury. Now we don't know what part of his body is ailing him, and for how long he'll have to tend to those ailments before he gets back in and gets going.
Yeah, they never specified lower upper body. They never specified anything. What they've specified is it's some sort of lingering issue. And Craig Berube cleared up yesterday. He said that the injury was re-aggravated by the Dennis Gilbert cross-check that Matthews took in front of, I believe it was in front of the Sabres net in the second period.
Right.
He had been hit by Tage Thompson, which drew in Morgan Riley to come to his defense, but it was the Gilbert cross check, which if you looked at the video, it was a cross check to the sort of the hip lower mid body area, which would lead you to believe it's either a hip issue or it's it may be a core issue like a sports hernia. Something like that. But, all I know is that he did not skate on Friday before the Sabres game. He was doing off-ice maintenance. So this is clearly something that he's dealing with on an ongoing basis. And, again, I'll deal in definitives because that's just the way I am. If he's not 100%, I don't know how they win the Stanley Cup. I think they can be a team that makes a deep run, but they need Auston Matthews with all of his capabilities to get key goals at key times in the postseason. And clearly, I think anybody who sees it, he's not the same guy as he was last year. He's dealing with something. He's trying his best. I heard Mike Johnson, the commentator from TSN, saying, his shot's still elite, but it's not the shot that we've seen over the years with the force that it normally has. So when he's not 100%, that makes like everybody else have to stand up even more. And they need Auston Matthews at all of his capabilities to be a difference maker.
When did the Leafs play their best hockey this season? When Auston Matthews wasn't in the lineup. He returns.
Right.
They keep winning, but it doesn't look as glorious.
Mm-hmm.
This team has enough talent to get the Leafs to where it needs to go initially. Beyond that, 34 is going to be integral. It might be a piecemeal season for him. I mean, he may miss another 10 games, come back, contribute, miss a few more games. The hope is that he is prepared and ready and healthy to jump on board and accelerate this team's agenda when the playoffs get going. And then beyond that, be healthy for this team for many years to come. I mean, look, he's been in the league for 8 years. He's pushing 400 career goals, which is insane. Might turn out to be the greatest American NHL scorer. And that's a debate you could already start having. But at some point, the Reaper not only lurks, but pounces with injury. And this could be the time of his career where he's going to have to change a little bit about who he is, his health, how he plays the game, so that he can be, self-preservation can be just as much of what he is about as putting pucks in the net. Real quick on that, Mike, I want to get to a couple of commenters and we can keep cruising along. I do want to talk about Domi McMahon and Robertson as well as Nylander.
Yeah, I mean, just this. He's a supreme talent. There's no doubt.
Right. And
this team over the last few years, when he has been out, has played well. Has played probably better than expectations.
Right.
And like I've said, that's not because Auston Matthews is any kind of problem. It's the fact that this team knows our superstars out. We have to suck it up. We have to try better, try more. We have to go the extra yard. All those little analogies, and everybody's got to be accountable for us to win when Auston Matthews is out of the lineup. And then when he comes back, I think there's a sigh of relief. Okay, he's back. Now, last night, I mean, they expected Matthews to be in the lineup. It was second of back-to-back. He doesn't play, and really the team did not have any energy until probably late first period when Nylander scored the goal to make it 2-1. So I mean, I think in a like 1 or 2 game blip, it's tough for the team to sort of get energized without Matthews. If they know
was that really due to Matthews not being in the lineup, or to what you alluded to in the beginning? It's just the 4th game in 5 nights, 6 nights.
I think both are contributing factors. Both can be the same. Both can be factors in the loss. I mean, I think the fact that Matthews wasn't there, and sometimes these are the games where Matthews will score 2 or 3 goals and a team that shouldn't win does. And he wasn't there, and for a good reason he wasn't there. But they just didn't have it last night to start, and then they didn't have enough to finish.
Right. Jeremy, don't call me Mike Gartner. If the Leafs have questions about goaltending durability, who do they pursue to stop worrying about it? I don't know if they worry about these things, the organization, the same way we do. They have enough bodies right now. I mean, I just can't see them expending any resources on another goaltender. But I guess talk to me in another couple of months. Your take on that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're going. They went into the season knowing what the dynamic was. Stolarz was brought in as a 1B, and the only reason he got more work early in the season was because Woll was injured to start the year, and he's played well. But I think the philosophy of Brad Treliving and this team is Joseph Woll, when it counts, is going to be the number 1 in the playoffs. Now, I said, is it possible that they're going to rotate? Well, we don't know. The goaltending rotations in the playoffs don't normally work. But, if both goaltenders have, proved by the end of the year that they can't carry the ball and play every other night in a playoff scenario, then they might have to do that.
Right.
But I don't think there's a permanent solution in between the pipes if Woll is not the solution until the summer. There are names out there like John Gibson who might be traded, but do the Leafs really want to trade significant draft picks and a top prospect to get a goaltender who's 31 years old, who I think is really good, but hasn't won anything at the NHL level? I mean, he's a good goaltender, but he's not won a Stanley Cup.
Well, one thing I'm pretty sure there's a consensus on at 40 Bay is that if he's healthy and he has the right support around him, that Joseph Woll can be the guy.
Right.
So,
you need to find that out. They need to find that out.
Yeah, for sure. Francisco Pinto, sit out Matthews until the playoffs. Use cap space. I mean, I want that engine running as the postseason's about to get going, so he can get on a run. Because we talk about this team and its playoff failures, and Marner is generally the pin cushion for most of our angst. But it's not like Auston Matthews is a playoff legend, just bursting at the seams, ready to complete his legacy in a successful way. They all have a lot to achieve, and I'm sure he'd like to be there to help push this team through a few more rounds.
I can only guess at this because nobody knows. Only the people inside the organization know the extent of whatever Matthews is dealing with. If they thought that this was an injury that could be solved by an in-season surgery and rehab, that would have happened already. Right. This is a situation where, based on the way that they're approaching it, that he's going to tough it out through the season, and then whatever it is, probably get it repaired during the summer. And then if it's something like and I'm just guessing here, I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just saying if it's something like a torn labrum in his hip, or if it's something like a sports hernia and he has to have a sports hernia surgery, the recovery time on some of those can be 4 to 6 months. So that's why if they're eliminated early, and he has surgery, then he would be ready for training camp. So
let me read this. Flip side. Pinto's 100% right. I don't want him back early. We need him just before the playoffs. Not worth losing him for the playoffs or making the same mistake as last year, bringing him back too early. That's the gamble, Mike. And the thing is, we really don't even know what is going on with this guy. It might be really severe, and it just may be another thing in a long list of nagging injuries that he's been contending with, unbeknownst to us. And we'll have to deal with as his career, gets further towards peak and then down the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, it's guesswork on our part. That's right. That's why I sort of hesitate. But it clearly we can only look at this based on the evidence that we've seen. He's not the player that scored 69 goals last year.
Right.
He's, I don't deal in the.
But he's not going to be that all the time.
No, right? but he's not. But he hasn't been that at all. He has not. He has not. Oh. He has scored goals. He's still a great player, but he has not shown the speed or the strength that he did last year. Something is off.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So if we have to chalk it up to something, let's just believe that he's dealing with injuries that are hampering his ability to provide the kind of offense that we've seen from him.
Correct.
And Mike, 69 goals. That's a lot of fucking goals.
Yeah, that might be his career.
If you think he's Brett Hall for the rest of his career, you've lost it. He's 70 goals a season is that's just not something he's going to be capable of doing.
That might be his career high, but what I'm saying is, he's 26, 27 years old. He's just at the beginning of the peak of his career.
Okay, so the Leafs know he is the highest value player on the team, one of the highest value guys in the league. Do you think they're being careless by getting him back in the lineup just to, again, I'd use this word, piecemeal a season together, when without him the Leafs are pretty capable of holding their own?
No, I mean, he was out for 3 weeks. He went to consult an independent medical opinion in Germany. So I think they dotted every I and crossed every T. I mean, what happened to him in Buffalo was a cross check and, something that, I mean, if it had been an inch or two higher, could have broken some ribs. So it was not an illegal hit or not a suspendable hit, but it was something that should have been at least penalized, but that doesn't prevent the injury from occurring. And he's an important player. Let's just say this: I think if it was a playoff scenario, he probably would have toughed through it. But you look at the schedule, and they played the Islanders last night, and they play Winnipeg on Monday, and then they have the Christmas break, and they're off for three more days. So if they don't play him on Monday, which I think is likely, they said he's questionable, then you're giving him an entire week to sort of heal up. Now, that may not make a difference because it took him, 3 weeks, and clearly he's still not 100%, but it may make it easier to deal with if he has a week off to sort of calm the waters of whatever injury it is.
That's a good question for the OGs and converts. I'll make it a poll. Do you think Auston Matthews should come back when he's ready and just try to put together as best a season as he possibly can, and you roll the dice on more injury occurring, or do you keep him out, believe that you get him as healthy as possible, as close to 100% as you'd believe, and reinstitute his capabilities later in the season, right when the playoffs hit, and then this team can get going.
And what Michael Borland said in the chat is something that I brought up last night on X, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. No way in hell he should be playing in the Four Nations face-off. None. I'm sorry. The team that's paying him $13.25 million doesn't give a good goddamn about the Four Nations face-off.
Right. Well, but Auston Matthews has to make that call because he reserves that right. So what do you think he wants to do?
I think he wants to play internationally for the United States. I think he wants to play in the. Let's just say this: if he doesn't play in the Four Nations face-off because he's dealing with something, he's going to be on the Olympic team in 2026. So
Four Nations thing is dumb. Like, so he's touch and go health wise, but wants to play in this stupid Four Nations thing. What can the Leafs do to prevent that, if anything?
I mean, if he wants to play, he's going to play unless they come out and say, they're not going to come out and do anything publicly. Okay. But I think they could say, Auston, you're dealing with this problem. It could be exacerbated by playing in a tournament that really doesn't mean anything. The teams are loaded. Not that they're not going to miss you, but somebody else will be able to be the next man up. Don't, take the 2 weeks off and then come back as healthy as possible for the stretch run. That's what I would recommend, but he's going to do what he wants to do.
Do you think there'd be an unwritten rule with this tournament? Just be offensive, be fast, be skilled, but they're going to lay off our guys?
No, it's not going to be shinny. It's going to this is going to be. I mean, it's not the Canada Cup because the Canada Cup happened in August,
right? But
this is an in-season tournament. But when you
everybody's dialed.
Yes, yeah, everybody, and you got best on best, and these guys, they want to win,
right?
So they're gonna be balls out, and that's what's scary because I'm even scared for the players who are not going into the tournament injured. I mean, Nylander is going to be a central piece for Sweden. Marner's probably going to be on the top line with Connor McDavid for Canada. So, and if Matthews is playing for the U.S., he's their top center. It's either him or Jack Eichel or Jack Hughes. So, I mean, they're going to have prominent roles, and they're going to be not targeted like somebody's going to try to take them out. But when you have a top player, teams approach those players and try to neutralize them. And how do they neutralize them? By being physical with them.
Yeah, as a Leaf fan over the years, anytime the Olympics came up or a tournament or even like a prolonged break, it would always make me sad because all I wanted to do was watch Maple Leaf hockey. So for me, I'm just not really big on any of these tournaments. Well, I turn it on to see how the play looks, and I'm sure it'll be as effervescent as ever when you have all of these stars on in one circumstance. Competing against each other, yeah, great. But my focus is the Maple Leafs, and the sooner we can get back at it with a healthy bunch of players and go on a run, the better. The last poll in community, youtube.com/the Leafs Convo. The question: which length of show do you prefer? 40 to 60 minutes. OGs and converts. 61% of you like the longer content. 33% wants to keep it shorter. 20 to 30 minutes, and 6% would like to see Mike and I do the show for 15 minutes or so, really condensed. So it seems like most of you want the longer show. We do appreciate that very much. So the key would be kind of jumping in and sticking with us as we go. And the 40-60 minute show is probably where we're going to end up today. We got another maybe 10 minutes or so. So. What a difference a week and a bit makes, Mike. We've talked at length about the lack of scoring from the bottom half of the offensive group, right? The bottom six, the third line, the fourth line. After this past week, it's not like our feet are in our mouth or we're eating crow or anything like that, but talk about really exciting to see that third line emerge, and not just because it's three guys who are finally doing their job or catching lightning in a bottle or catching on fire, but it's two of the three who really needed to get going, and Max Domi and Nick Robertson. What a week they had, and I really hope it continues. I'm not saying they're going to score at this clip every single game, but man, if they can provide that kind of spark, holy shit, does that take pressure off the top six, especially with 34 in and out of the lineup?
Well, I mean, it appears as if the floodgates opened when Max Domi finally got that puck over the goal line against the Sabres on Sunday, because he's been a house of fire since then. Right. I mean, he scored against Dallas. He had, I think it was a goal and 2 assists against Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Not as much yesterday, but he's been a contributor. And Nick Robertson, up until last night, had scored 3 games in a row, and he's been playing really well. And Bobby McMahon, it's a line that just fit together. And they were the one who carried the burden against Dallas and against Buffalo. So whenever you get contributions from a third line like that, you're usually in pretty good shape. Now, they are also getting contributions from the power play and from the first and second line. So when you put all that together, that's a good thing. Now, thing is, again, I've been a defender of Nick Robertson. I know a lot of people basically said, Nick Robertson's just never going to do it here. He's making his bid to make it here. I think what the thing that this organization wanted from him is not to be as much of a defensive liability. I actually saw him be physical in the game against Buffalo, where he took a run at a bigger defenseman. They don't need him to be Brian Reaves and drop the gloves and things like that, but they just need him to be stout defensively, make good decisions, not give up the puck at their own at the blue line and invite counterattacks going the other way. And he has been, that recently. He took him a while to, he was taking care of the defensive side of the game, and he had no puck luck. Now he's having some puck luck. So, right. And Bobby McMahon, another guy, when healthy, is not a difference maker, but is a guy capable of being a middle six winger. He's got size. I mean, if they get good play out of Max Domi playing up the middle, again, I don't think he's a center, but right now, they don't have many options when it comes to a third center after Matthews and Tavares. And with Matthews out, they have to play him at center. They played David Kampf up on the first line with Matthew Nyes and Marner against the Islanders, simply because they didn't want to break up the other two lines. But if Matthews' injury issues continue, and I think that probably that narrows down what your top target at the deadline is. It's going to be a center.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. Like the content. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Watch out for Convo shorts for confidence for Domi and Robertson specifically. This is phenomenal. And I've never really been against Nick Robertson. I just don't like placing him in a premium spot, because that's all he can really do is be fed by better players. If he's ascending on his own and working, playing 3-zone 200-foot hockey on the third line with guys like McMahon and guys like Domi who are going to go, and he can keep up and then some, that's what I want to see from him, that kind of progression. So I'm here for it, man. And what we saw this past week, I hope continues for these guys. And I do like that line, Mike. Can you imagine having a solidified third line? And, you can roll through the carousel of the top guys because you have enough firepower up there who you can supplant here and there. But imagine having a third line that you knew was just there night in and night out. And then a support line to that where, it would be checking and keeping teams hemmed in their own end while the top offensive guys catch their breath. I mean, that would be great. And that's all part of developing a team that is known to have more success than not, and that will be prepared to do something of substance when the playoffs rolls around. Last couple of words to you, Mike.
Yeah, first of all, the fourth line when the Sabres and Leafs played on Friday was Lorenz, Kampf, and Holmberg. I much preferred that line and their ability to be sort of two-way and, maybe move a player in and out of the higher up in the lineup than the fourth line that they used yesterday, which was Lorenz, Dewar, and Ryan Reaves.
Was that Reaves last night that chunked a breakaway?
Yeah, he had a breakaway. Did he even hit the net? I don't even know. I do not see a role for Ryan Reaves. If Ryan Reaves had Ryan Reaves been in the lineup on Friday, and had he been on the ice, which he wouldn't have been because Auston Matthews was on the ice, would he have stepped in against Tage Thompson like Morgan Riley did? Probably not. He probably would, if against the Sabres. Now the question is, against the Sabres, would he have fought Dennis Gilbert for doing what he did? And does that provide any kind of negative repercussions? I don't know. You have to have a player who plays significant minutes and isn't a gadget guy, isn't a role player, to provide team toughness. And Ryan Reaves is an 8-minute-a-night plug. He's not a good player anymore. And he doesn't have a role here. That's the thing. It's like they're gonna, they could buy him out at the end of the year. He could retire. They could trade him someplace else. I just don't see a use for him.
Yeah, I was wondering this last night. Like we have expectations of Ryan Reaves based on his history. His reputation precedes him, but it doesn't, hasn't really followed him, and doesn't make him. It doesn't endear him to us based on the way he's playing and what he's doing and the lack thereof. But I wonder if he's been given a mandate by the team. I wonder if Craig Berube has just told him to be the guy he is right now.
I doubt it. I think, let's just say this.
Why wouldn't he take that? Why, like, this guy makes $1 million? Who gives a shit? Get rid of him. Sorry, Mike. If he's not doing what he's supposed to do, what the hell does Craig Berube have against just removing him from the lineup and replacing him with somebody else?
I think that basically he's depending on the reputation of Ryan Reaves to be intimidative and not the actual actions of Ryan Reaves. And that, nobody's intimidated by that. It's like, if you could go out and get, like Matthew Olivier from Columbus, who I think is a UFA at the end of the year and drops the gloves and is not a terrible player, somebody who could play. Ideally, and the days of having Wendell Clark being a top line or top 2-line winger, dropping the gloves with everybody and being an intimidative force, those days are over with. There's only one or two Tom Wilsons in this league, but you need players who are playing more to step up physically and be that type of guy. Having somebody like Ryan Reaves who sits at the end of the bench, plays the 4th-line shift, and then doesn't do anything of what he was supposed to do. I do not think Brad Treliving had signed Ryan Reaves to come in and just be the guy on the scoreboard who's yelling and screaming. They expected him to be a physical force, and he's not anymore.
Before we go, shout out to William Nylander. He's gotten hot again. 25 goals? That's wild. He's on pace for 50, and he's already made it known that hitting the half-century mark is part of what he'd like to accomplish this season. And having those kinds of goals are amazing because the byproduct is you're scoring more goals for the team you represent, which should in turn put that team in a better position to succeed. Really good from him.
Yeah, I believe I saw the graphic on the broadcast on Friday that he has scored 20% of the Leafs goals, which is 3rd in the league, behind, I think, Sam Reinhart. I can't remember the two players.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the Leafs aren't scoring to the same clip that they have in the past. And obviously number 34 is about 10, 12 goals short of where he's usually scoring at. Sure,
but still, I mean, the fact that he's not even playing top line minutes. I mean, he's playing on the 2nd line and John Tavares deserves a lot of credit too, because Tavares has been setting him up for most of those goals. Right. So it's an excellent year. He very, very easily could score 50 the way he's going right now. But again, that's all fine and good, but they need more than just him, more than just Marner leading the league in assists. They need everybody.
Right. Just because you get more minutes doesn't mean you're going to score more goals. Having more minutes means more workload, more things to do outside of the offensive part of the game, and that could detract from the things you're doing. So I think where William Nylander is right now is perfect for him, and let's hope he keeps it going. What a great season he's having, and 50 goals would be amazing for him. Okay, so Winnipeg, it's an afternoon game tomorrow, and then the Christmas break, and then you have a game in Detroit. Doesn't usually go well for the Leafs there, at least of late. Then back home to Washington. They'll wrap up with the Islanders again. What would you like to see from the 4 games to finish up the season?
Well, I would like to see them go into the Little Caesars Arena and kick the crap out of the Red Wings because the Red Wings are not a very good team. But again, like you said, that building has never been very hospitable to the Leafs. So, I mean, I think ideally they out of 8 possible points, you got some tough. Washington is very tough. Winnipeg is still one of the best teams in the West. If you get 5 of 8 points, I think you'll be happy. But I think the thing that we want to see the most is Auston Matthews back in the lineup.
Sorry, William Nylander is 23 goals. He's second in scoring in the league behind Leon Draisaitl, ahead of Kirill Kaprizov, who they have 24 and 21 respectively. So he's looking pretty good. Mitch Marner, no slouch himself, tied for second in the league in assists with 35, and John Tavares having a resurgence. So of the core 4, the 3 guys who have been healthy and in the lineup in each and every night for the most part are doing their job. And I mean the role of 4 is being done by 3 really capable guys, and that's what just has to happen, right? That's what just has to happen. Without Auston Matthews contributing at a peak clip, this Leafs team still has enough players, capable bodies and capable players outside of your buddy Ryan Reaves, to stay near the top of the table and potentially win the division. What's up with you, Mike, before we go?
Just a lot of stuff leading up into the World Junior. We'll be tracking Easton Cowan, who appears to be one of the main cogs for Canada, and some of the other Sabres and Leafs prospects for my role at the Hockey News.
Hey, OG's Converse, thanks for being here on this early Sunday morning. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments in the comments section of the post on YouTube. Everybody's just so chirpy and chatty in the chat when we do the live presentation, but we don't get as many comments as we'd like to see. So come back, leave your comment. I'll interact. We can kind of get a bit of a chain going with interactivity. That would be amazing. Watch out for Convo Shorts. I'll break down some components and little segments from this show, and you can share that with your friends. Mike, I don't think I'll be talking to you before Christmas, so I wanted to wish you and your mom and your family, the entire Augello clan, a Merry Christmas. But I'm certain we will reconvene before the ball drops in New York on New Year's Eve, and we move into 2025. Should be a great year for the Maple Leafs, as long as they can stay healthy and focused. Yeah, guys, for sure. T-Sax in the chat. Happy holidays. We've got Timberwolf. Hey, there he is, my man. Merry Christmas, boys. We've got K-Dog. Merry Christmas, guys. And Jeremy, are you wishing anybody Merry Christmas, or are you just shitting on Ryan Reaves? Oh,
That's my job. Sorry.
That is Mike's. Okay, Mike, thanks for being here. For Mr. Augello, I'm Mr. James. The Leafs Convo is out. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, guys.